Death experience. Well, first of all, welcome, Ren,
Thank you.
Exton. And where are you located?
I'm in
Oh, that's right.
Tasmania.
That's right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I got thrown off by the time.
Yes. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
thrown off as well. It's hard keeping up with time zones everywhere.
So you had three near-death experiences, um, I guess, throughout your life, and I'm assuming that we're going to find out that that probably brought you certain information or something. And then
Definitely.
you, and then you had said in the message, like watching the show, like a lot of people realize they're not going through it alone. That type of thing. Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, so it's been very supportive just to be able to, whenever I can, listen along because even though, today I feel like I've got nothing to say. But I think that always happens when you put your hand up, doesn't it? You sort of think, oh yes, like in the last few weeks, it's been amazing the women that have put their hands up, and like I've just felt it so much that it's made me go like, I need to speak,
Yes.
and yeah.
Yeah. So,
So my first experience of near death experience was a car accident where I was thrown from the car and didn't damage anything other than fractured my skull, fractured my face, broke my jaw. So I was totally rebuilt in the face, and that taught me a lot. So it sort of cracked me open, and that's when the light came in, and it
how
made me start questioning everything.
how old were you?
27,
Wow.
yeah,
And
big time.
up until then, I mean, was there anything else happening?
Lots was happening, obviously. And when I was a child, I was only thinking this the other day. When I was a child, I used to get this really slow motion thumb that would just be so huge and it would just move in front of my face all the time. And it had only happened now and then while I was just playing. And then the other thing that happens with my thumb on my left hand is every now and then I get like a piece of metal that's like a really slight metal splinter that starts to come through and I have to pluck it out. And I'm not sure, like, I still don't know what the thumb thing is.
What is
But
that?
every now and then on my thumb, I will get this little piece that's like a hair,
Uh huh.
but it actually feels like metal.
Wow,
And I
that's
have to
crazy.
pull it out with
I
tweezers.
wonder.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder if it's your body's way of like getting rid of some of the stuff that's out there or whatever.
Maybe because I know I had a lot of metal in me from the car, like
Oh, okay.
repairing,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
but my body pretty much rejected every piece except a bit that's around my eye that holds my eye socket in place.
God. Wow.
Crazy. Yeah.
So what kind
So my
of
body obviously can't cope with the metal inside me.
Well, that's because you're an ET, like everyone
But I
else.
think there's something, I think there's something going on. Yeah.
So, did you get specific information, or did it just kind of jolt you into
It
the
was a
meaning?
jolt.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the jolt, it it made me look at my relationship at the time. Like I was married with two little children, and I knew that wasn't where I needed to be. But before that, I was probably just, I don't know, floundering around. And I think the car accident was the universe, God, someone giving me a huge interruption because I was laying in bed in a hospital having multiple surgeries and whatever for 6 weeks looking at the ceiling. So I, had a lot of time to sort of evaluate who I was and what I wanted for myself and my life, different things like that. So then when I got out, I started just getting different books and reading them. So I started finding out a bit more about what I'm about, like what am I here for, all those sort of things. So I started, yeah, and one book that was really probably life-changing in a lot of ways for me was a book by Diana Cooper called Transform Your Life. And she said to think about either a poem or a book or whatever, the first one that comes to your mind, and that you think of when you were a child. And whatever that one is will be the story of your life. And it was so relevant.
Really? I just thought it in my head. I just thought it in my
So have
head.
you got one that you
Yeah, it was
think of?
Robert Frost. Excuse me, Robert
Yeah.
Frost. The Road Not Taken. Two.
Wow.
What is it? Two roads diverged in a wood. I shall be telling this with a sigh. Two roads diverged in a wood, and I took the road less traveled by. So, what was yours?
Wow. Mine was a sad, which, there was a lot of sadness inside my body that I hadn't actually really realized. But it was the first one that came into my mind, so I thought I'm not going to try and choose another one. It was The Ugly Duckling.
Okay.
And like the crazy part of my story, Todd, is there's a power in words that I totally, totally get. Like I did write a lot of poetry. One of the poems I wrote at school that was published on the front of one of the newspapers here in Tasmania was called Mechanised Death, and that was about a car accident. And then, like, I don't know, 10 years, 12 years later, I was actually in one. And I only wrote it because we had to watch a film that was called Mechanised Death. And like my teacher sent it off to the papers, and it was put on the paper. So I had that one, and then I wrote another poem called A Wedding from a Viewpoint of a Pigeon, which sounds I don't even know where that came from, but I wrote it at school.
It's a download.
Yeah, and I haven't been able to be at either of my two children's wedding. I've got 3 children and 2 of them are married, and I haven't been able to get to either of them.
Well,
So, here's me writing an innocent little poem about how bizarre marriage and weddings look from the viewpoint of a pigeon. I don't even know how I had that in my mind, but anyway. Yeah, so I just think, gosh, it was like, and then I was it's when I was growing up at home, I was always the blonde-haired, but with the weird jaw. Like Mum and Dad used to always say I had the Exton jaw. And so they spend a lot of money and time trying to fix my jaw because I had like a slightly protruding bottom jaw. So they spent all their time focusing on the way I chewed. I had to get certain sticks to put in behind my teeth and push them out for an hour every night. Didn't work. Then they put a plate on my I think it was on my bottom jaw to try and stop that from growing as a child. And like they made me focus so much on that. And of course, what did I break in the car accident? My jaw. So then the ugly duckling coming along as the story, here's me. I was weird. I didn't quite fit in. I used to even sit carefully when I first started work so that people couldn't see me sitting side on, just in case they noticed that I was weird. It's so crazy. Like just what you get from, that sort of information from growing up, I guess.
wow.
So then I had to have my jaw smashed, didn't I? And then it was reset, and I went through all that. So it's
So,
amazing. The power of words, the power of thought, the power of
creation.
beliefs, and what we create. Like even your story, what you've just shared with me, already sounds like your story.
That's crazy.
doesn't it?
When you said that, and your story's fascinating because you're 27, you have this severe
How I
crash,
survived it, I don't
yeah,
know.
and
Yeah.
then you go into 6 weeks of soul searching, I guess, or connecting, and then you find this book, and and then I had the little revelation because I thought in my head, what was mine, and then boom, there it was. So I thought yours was going to be like uplifting.
No.
And
But then
but
it
it's
actually is
it,
too,
it,
though.
I know I can see
It is
the
now.
well I can see that even the way you talk about it.
Yeah.
But like I can see where like you were connected to your soul in that moment because I said you downloaded it, right?
Mm,
uh, you were planting a seed. You were creating your what you intended to do. You heard the call. As strange as that may
totally.
seem, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. So that takes us to the book with Diane Cooper and this fascinating, you know, how and oh, I'm sorry, that would have been before. And then you have the accident. You get this jolt, but you have two more NDEs.
Oh, actually, there was one before that when I had my second daughter. So she was 2 when I had my car accident. So the first one, sorry, yeah, the like my mind doesn't remember dates and names
Yeah.
a lot,
Well, we're not
purely
linear.
because of the accident and
We're not linear. We're the weird ones. We're
oh,
multidimensional. So
absolutely.
there's
So
no.
I mean, I might jump around all over the place, but you'll get the gist of the story. But yes, when I had her, um, the birth and everything went fine, and they were really busy in the hospital, and they left me because they were really busy, and they said they'd come back. So I'd literally given birth, and I was just laying there, and I actually bled, so I hemorrhaged massively.
Well,
So then they came back to the room, and of course, then I was rushed away, and like they had to restitch me, and then I was on 2 blood transfusions overnight, so I didn't even get to see my little baby for all that time. And I had all this massive guilt and sadness that she was upstairs and I was downstairs having blood transfusions to try and keep me alive and get me going again. And so I had massive guilt with that. But then when she had a baby, I was starting to go through the trauma of my birth with her, just as the time that she was ready to give birth to her little boy. And I was a mess, and I was going to a lady who was helping me with healing myself as well, and she was like an intuitive massage person, and she said try regression therapy. So I asked her what that was, and so I did it for myself, and it was just I was crocheting a rug for my daughter for her baby, a shawl, and so I wrapped a pillow in that half-finished crocheted rug and reimagined the birth and me holding her for as long as I wanted to. And I did that, and I cried, and I just stayed at home that whole day. It sounds ridiculous, but it was so healing, and it sort of changed the relationship with my daughter and myself. And then she had to have an emergency Caesar, and I was with her when they, said that. And of course, I was really nervous, but I felt a sort of sense that everything was going to be okay, purely because of what I'd sort of healed in myself to be there. Otherwise, I would have been probably a mess. Do you know what I mean? I'd have
well,
been no help to her, and yeah. So that was my first. But I feel like I've really got through that one, even though that was a really big one.
mm,
Really, when you go through something like that and you feel the need to be with your baby, but they didn't sort of connect that she needed, I needed her near me at that stage. It was like that was when they still kept people separate from their
yeah.
babies at certain times. So
So that was like real time ancestral lineage healing.
Totally. And of course, I was born the second daughter of a farmer and his wife, and of course they wanted a son. So I was meant to be Walter Douglas, and I was born Wendy Irene, but I've changed my name recently, as I said in my email, to Ren. So I always felt like I was a disappointment. So there was a terrible amount of pleasing, being a chameleon, being whatever I needed to fit wherever I was. And that was exhausting. So, I'd have migraines once a month for 3 days, and then I came across the Landmark Forum, and one of your guests that was in the studio with you probably a month ago was saying that she did the Landmark Forum, and that was when I thought maybe I can sort of talk about something here. But I put my hand up and went to the Landmark Forum, and I literally laid on the floor and vomited and laid on the floor and vomited and laid on the floor. And they said, don't leave, because this is a breakthrough for you. And it was massive. Like, it sounds bizarre, but I'm so glad I stayed in the room as much as I could when I wasn't going to the toilet to vomit. But I had a massive migraine, and they said this will be like, you'll get to the source of what that migraine is or has to be about. And so that was when I actually started to see my story. Not the story of the ugly duckling, but the story that internally I just had going around in my head, that I was constantly a disappointment. I didn't fit anywhere. I had to prove myself all the time. Like, it was all just hard work. And I came out of that feeling like, wow, I feel different and the world looks different. So that was like another massive crack open.
How long ago was this?
Well, that I can't quite remember.
Yeah.
I can't remember that. Again,
was it like within the last couple of years, or was this a while back?
No, that was probably 2012 or something like that.
Okay. All right.
No, it was before that, because my daughter that had the little baby that I was telling you I was really worried about, her partner that she was with in 2008, he died suddenly.
Wow.
He was an athlete, very fit, and he died suddenly of the nerves that supply his heart just stopped. And both of them were medically trained, and my daughter was trying to save him, but there was nothing that could be done. So I'd done the Landmark Forum before that, so it was before 2008.
I want to hear more of this story, but what is, and you saw it on this show, I'm sure, but I don't remember the Landmark Forum. What is that?
No, that's right. Now, what was this lady's name? She's living in an RV. She had a red jumper on dark hair. Oh, very interesting.
Yeah.
It was in the studio with you.
Oh, she was in the studio with me.
Yeah.
I can't remember. It's all right.
No, I should have taken notes, but anyway, I didn't. It'll come to you.
Yeah. So what happened after that? What was the next thing?
Well, I think I came home and apologised to people for the way I'd been in some, which was part of what our landmark thing was. And then from then on, I did all these seminars that were held in Hobart. And so I'd go once a week to these seminars, which was just working on breaking down the layers of the onion that you put over yourself. Do you know what I mean? Like your story of your life and that sort of thing.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was great. But then I did the Introduction Leaders program, which was, so confronting. Like, it was like bam, bam, bam. Like
fast
coming
track.
up against yourself. Yeah, it was awful. And I felt really I don't know, I felt like I had to do that to learn the power of a powerful no.
Right.
Because I was always no as an apology, you know? Like I'd never just say, no, that's a no for me.
Right.
I'd come up with the reasoning why and whatever, and then someone would fix the reasoning for me
Right.
when I,
Well, I
doing
think
this
that's
landmark.
something that, yeah, I think that's something a lot of us have learned to do the last couple of years. Right.
Yep, yep. And yeah, so that was, and then I got to the point where I knew I wasn't a fit for being an introduction leader, but I still live by, like, I still think the Landmark Forum's working on me. And I think it's the best thing I ever did. It's not for everyone because,
Mm-hmm.
you really, it is torrid. And it was 3 days of torrid. So, and then you just continue with your, I think it was once a week we went to these seminars for a time. And
Mm.
then I went to the training, which was, massive. That was where I came up against myself and my ego so much that I saw myself in a, really ugly way sometimes. And you just
Mm.
think, whoa. But anyway, it was all really valuable, and I just woke one day when I was being called by Landmark for something, and I just thought, you know what, I'm a no. I'm not an introduction leader. And that was really good. Like I felt the no was a genuine no, and there was nobody could come at me with like a fix it,
Yeah.
which
It
was fabulous.
was like a no more.
Yeah, yeah.
Now, okay. Yeah. So
Now where
then what
are we? I'm just
happened?
all
Then
over
what
the.
happened? So you had a third near death, right?
Yes, I was in my second marriage. I was in a marriage that was stressful financially, stressful because of secrets that he'd held from me that I found through other things, and there was just so much going on in the background that I could never tell what it was. But
Mm-hmm.
because I've always been that child, like my mum lost the little boy that was born after me. He died at
Mm.
3 months of age. So after having two daughters and then finally getting their boy,
Mm.
he was born with spina bifida and he died at 3 months. So I always knew there was something wrong in our house, but I didn't know what because we were never told. Like he just disappeared. This little baby disappeared in my reality. Do you know what I mean? We were taken to the next door neighbours while mum and dad dealt with what they had to deal with. But that was all. And then there was just a photo of Mark that was kept in mum's bedroom. That's the only recollection. So then I married this second husband that kept all these secrets. But because I was so in tune that something wasn't right, I'm just that person. I can smell a rat from the silence.
Mm-hmm.
I can feel it. And so I was like raging inside because I just couldn't put all the pieces together and I wasn't getting the information, and I burst my appendix, but I didn't know that's what had happened. So I'd been into the hospital 3 times and they couldn't work out what was wrong with me. And the second time I came home, I was laying on the couch with a heat pack, and all of a sudden I felt a little bit better. And that was because my appendix had burst. So I thought, oh, now I feel better. Oh, I'm right now. But then, of course, peritonitis sets in. So then when I was rushed to hospital, I was like vomiting bile.
Mm.
And they thought I had like bowel cancer or something. So they still didn't know what was wrong with me. So the
Mm.
next thing I knew, I was rushed off to surgery. I was cut, down through the centre because they thought they'd have to be doing like a bowel something or other. But it was burst appendix. So, of course, I had to have everything taken out of me. So my intestines, bowel, to be washed, because if any of that pus that stays, and gets septic, it kills you. So that's what they had to do. So, of course, here's me in surgery with half of my body outside of myself and then put back inside myself. And then I recovered from that slightly. And then because your bowel doesn't go and your intestines don't go back in form, they go where they go and then they make their own way again. So I'd had something to eat that got caught in a bend of my something, intestines or whatever. So I was rushed back to hospital, blown up because it was a bowel obstruction. So then I had to have this, whatever they gave me to drink, and they said, if this doesn't work, we'll be opening you back up because we'll have to do a bowel operation. But thank God that did work and everything came forth, and I've just had to be quite careful and to be in the right state when I eat, so that I'm not sort of tense or.
Wow.
So yeah, they're my times. So, and I just think, wow, I'm meant to still be here. Like, I'm here for a reason. And I've just found literally recently how, like, even this morning before I got on the phone to you, there was this little spider that just kept crawling on the chair next to me. And I thought, right, that's a sign. And I can remember that spiders, because I love animal wisdom, animals speak to me all the time. And I looked up spider, and it was like, we're all a thread in this tapestry of life. And we've all got, like, value in our, individual threads. So without my thread, this thread wouldn't be possible. Do you know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
it's...
Yeah.
So I thought, that was just like what I needed to know, that I wasn't just going to get on here and waste your time. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, you're not. Well, we're all loving this.
Yeah, great.
So how long have you... Oh, go ahead. Keep going.
Oh, yeah, I was just going to say, and then I did, like, I started searching, like, I'm a hairdresser by trade.
Mm-hmm.
But I started to feel like I didn't fit with hairdressing. Like, I felt, after I had my son, I felt like going into a salon, I didn't fit the politics and the dynamics and the bitchiness and I couldn't play the game anymore. I was just like, no, I'm creative and I love doing people's hair and I love being in their space, but I couldn't do it in that, condensed environment of a lot of people, so too much energy. So that's when I thought, right, I need to do something different. So I started looking about and I did it was called the Inspired Life Coaching Academy. I did life coaching, but in the meantime I had to make some money as well. So I set up my business in the studio at home. And that was a much better environment for me because I had a bit more control over the dynamics of how the salon would be working. And then I did some life coaching as well, and that really worked well. And I thought that was where I wanted to go. And then I've always wanted to write a book, and I knew what the subject was. I mean, the title of it was years ago before I even knew what the content would be. And so in 2016, it all just sort of came to me, and I wrote the book, and Selflove published it, and it's about self-love, which is what I've had to do. So you know how they say you teach what you need for yourself. So that was what my life coaching was about, and it's what hairdressing is about. Like, so the book's called Love, Truth and Beauty, and they're like my main top 3. I don't know whether you call them values or what they are, but like
love, truth, and beauty.
Love is so important.
Yeah.
Truth to me, like if people withhold truth, I know there's like an elephant in the room, like I just know it. And so I'd rather have someone be blunt and tell the truth, which gets me into trouble because I am truthful. to that extent that's not valued sometimes either. But I think it's more painful when you get the truth in a roundabout way. Like, there's no nice way to fluff it up and then bang, then you get it. It's like, it's just better to say, well, this is my experience, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
and get it out there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's a really good point, because how else are we going to understand someone's perspective? Because our perspective, even when we know this, Ram Dass says, if you think you're awake, go stay with your family for a few days, right? I mean,
Oh,
there's all these
absolutely.
players, you know, our closest circles, but like
Yeah.
and you know what I mean? It's like, how are you ever going to understand? We have to be open to it, and I think what's happening is we're starting to get, you know, this is your subject, like enough self-love to where we're opening up more to the
Yeah.
possibilities that we don't know everything.
Well, we're healing those wounded parts of ourselves,
Mm,
like by going through the journey of self-love, aren't we? But
mm,
the crazy part about that was I started the business at home and it went really well, and it was too busy, and then, you know, coaching was trying to fit in amongst it, and I've always been someone that's empowering women, but I think it's because I wanted to prove to my father that I was valued, you know what I mean?
right,
And yet
right,
my dad loved me to bits, but because I knew that they wanted the Walter Douglas, you know,
right.
I always had this feeling that no matter who I was never going to be that. So I then became this sort of masculine woman in some ways, because I mostly raised my children alone. And so I became the mother and the father. And it's only recently that I can feel, like even just recently you had this beautiful woman that channeled Lady Gaia and Thor, was it? And it was the dark masculine and the dark feminine.
Yeah,
Oh my goodness,
yeah.
that was just like so fabulous. And I could feel that that's what's been happening for me.
Well,
So, you know, that's all been in amongst this time as well. But the darkest part of my life was after I wrote the book, because I was in a relationship at that time that I was calling unconditional love, which was unconditional love from my end, but it
mm,
was conditional love from his end.
was that the
But
second?
he,
Was that the
no,
second? Oh,
this is a third,
okay,
third relationship that I'd got into.
okay.
So I thought that was the relationship. I thought I'd healed a lot of my trauma, but I needed that because he was a very good example of putting himself first.
Okay.
And I thought I was, but I was putting myself first when it was sort of convenient for others,
Okay.
and mostly him. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So then got to a point where I realised this isn't that unconditional love. So then I didn't really like my book, because I'd written a chapter on love and how I thought I was in this unconditional loving relationship. And so that happened, and it finished. That day I went for a massage, came home, I was T-boned at an intersection, and it was like I saw the car coming out, and it was like I was just in this slow motion, oh, he's going to hit me, and he did. But I didn't get hurt. But the car was like, the airbags came off, so it was quite an impact. But I felt like I knew it was happening, and God or the universe said, just relax and go with it, which I did. And I didn't get hurt at all. But it triggered stuff from my last car accident, and the fact that the relationship had broken down, it brought up all the other relationship stuff. So I was in my bed after that with no car. I mean, not the jab of bed in your car, but do you know what I mean? I was in my bed in a mess because I didn't have a car. My relationship had broken down. I felt like a complete failure because I'd written about this love in my book and declaring all this, healing and love and whatever. And I can remember looking up and seeing my mum come round the corner, because I was in the back bedroom at the time. My mum came round the corner to come and see me, and I looked at her and I thought, you can't even make this better. And I thought, what a horrible thing to say, but she couldn't. So it was that moment that I knew that it was all up to me, but I didn't know whether I had enough in me to keep going.
Mm.
And I thought, I've got beautiful kids, lovely grandchildren, but I don't want to be here.
Right.
Was what I thought. Then I did heaps of writing, because writing's my thing. I write everything out. Like if I'm angry, I write the anger out and I burn it. If I'm sad, I write the sadness out and I burn it. Like that heals me so much, because, as I said, there's no one that I know of that I can actually have these conversations with without having someone trying to fix you, because you don't want to be fixed. You just want to hear it, let it out.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Let it out and then you feel okay. So then I woke up one morning. I probably had about 3 days where I spent a fair bit of time in bed, because it sort of brought up my vagus nerve was making me feel disorientated. So that was from the car accident, you see. It sort of just threw everything. So I didn't feel like I could stand very well without getting dizzy or falling over. So I was mostly just going to the kitchen, getting something, going to the bathroom and getting back into bed. But I woke up this morning and the words that came somewhere were happily ever after. And I thought, what's this about? So I wrote down happily ever after, and I thought, that's my job. That's my only job. I need to find what keeps me happy ever after. And it changed everything, Todd. Everything. My business went through the roof. I had this lady ask me, because it had gone right down in this relationship, it just drained everything out of me. I'd lost a lot of clients. I was having to rent a room out in my house because I was going to lose my home, because it cost me a lot of money to do the book and all the things. And so I was in this sort of desperation mode. And then this one lady asked me about doing a dry curly cut. And she gave me a website to look up to have a look at this way of cutting curly hair that was new and different. And so I learned all what I could online, and I started getting all these new people coming to me. And the experience of being in the salon was so fresh. And now, then I went and did the curly training, and I picked it up just like I was meant to be it. So now I'm a curl specialist. But what I'm doing, because since COVID, I've been only working with one person at a time, whereas I used to have a couple in the salon at a time. One I'd be trimming, the other one I'd be colouring, blah, blah, blah. Now I've chosen that my energy is better spent one-on-one. That's how I like it. So that's how I'm staying. And in amongst doing the training, I now know that I'm unlocking something in people with their hair.
Wow.
It is extraordinary. And you know what happens now? They're in the salon learning how to look after curly hair so it doesn't go fluffy and frizzy, so it sits in beautiful curls. And they're so appreciative, and there's so many stories, from their past. So here's my life coaching coming into my hairdressing. So then they start telling me some stories, and I'll just get this feeling, give them a book. So all of a sudden, the book that I was so not wanting to know about has come back out in its pride of place. So now I've got them in my salon, and I get this feeling with people when they're on that sort of, who am I? Who am I really? Because honestly, I have people break into tears because they see themselves beautifully for the first time.
Wow.
And it is so powerful. Like, I'm connected. Talk about love.
Is it like, I mean, like intuitive
Yep.
hairstyling? Yeah. Like,
Yeah.
because I mean, there's some narratives that.
There's so many things connected to people that have got curly hair.
Well,
They
mine's
haven't fitted.
mine's
Yeah, I
curly
know.
like crazy.
I
Like
thought
I
I had
can.
an awkward wave, but I've got great curls. I
Yeah.
used to like my hair.
Some people have that
Now,
luxury.
sorry.
So no, I was just making a joke. Some people have that luxury. The hair just does perfect. You know, I don't. Yeah, this is cool. Like, so you were. I mean, it's so interesting the way that you have all these key points throughout your life, like that stayed with you, and they're some traumatic, even many of them, but are uncomfortable at a minimum. But they're like valued now. Like
They're gold.
you totally see them. And then you were talking about the recent times, but like with your makeup and your journey, you had, as we all do, a dysfunctional and distorted masculine feminine kind of thing going on. It to me it feels like you did stay in touch with your feminine, but you took on some masculine things.
Yes.
Now,
Yeah. Like, I can fix or build or
right.
do anything. Like, I honestly can, and I love it. Like, I love being creative. I love reusing things, recycling. And I think when COVID hit, I started to think, I started to feel this sort of growing inside of me that was just like wanting to burst out, you know what I mean? And I didn't know what it was, and I started to think, I'm here for this time. That's why I had to go through all the things that I've gone through. And I don't feel like a victim of that at all. You know, I feel like all of those things gave me power and strength and vulnerability and like all the lessons I needed. Like when I came out of my car accident, I got the experience of what some people get when people won't look at you in the eye. Because I had to walk around with a frame that was screwed into my eyebrows, metal frame, and attached to my mouth. I had weights. My nose was off my skull, so I had weights and a wire to hold my nose back on my skull. So unbelievable. I didn't recognise myself, and it took me till 50 to realise I looked more like myself again, because you feel the same, but you're looking out and you see yourself in a reflection somewhere and you think, shit, who's that? And then you go, oh my God, that's me. But because I had 27 years of looking in a mirror, because I work around mirrors, and also did modelling and deportment, and I taught modelling and deportment, so it was all around that. So my looks and my being was around beauty, really.
Yeah.
And then I became that person that everybody crossed the road because they didn't want to see me because I looked so distorted. So, you know, my daughter was in the car one day and she was just horrified because this lady, I can't remember what she said, but it was something like, how do you cope with like your mum looking like this? You know, it was something that my daughter, who was 6, the eldest one, has never forgotten, because it was so bizarre that somebody would have I don't know what it was, but she was just being honest, but for my daughter it was like horrific. Because I dare say for her, the only way she knew who I was after the accident was my hands looked the same. God. So she kept thinking a mask was going to come off, do you know and I'd come back.
Well, that's wild.
Yeah.
And
So I
then,
got to experience life in so many different ways.
yeah. Well, and the crazy and unique thing about your story, like, I guess, we have so much, we had an over identification with the body. And like the way you laid yours out with being around mirrors and just being in a profession of beauty. And so, um, but like you had the accident, you had this surgery where your body's taken apart basically. You've got foreign, so there's all this stuff with your body. So, I mean, to me, like, did you feel like you were looking through eyes other than from your body because your body
Yes.
was such a mess?
Yes.
Or yeah.
Yes.
And did you reach a point? I think it sounds like it with what you just said a minute ago. But did you reach a point, or was that the point when you reached self love, even of the body, or the body came into the fold, or something?
Oh, look, I can't remember when that happened, but I literally felt like I was in like a can looking out. Even when the framing and everything came off, I felt like I wasn't, I don't know, it was the weirdest experience. But then all of a sudden, my body was giving me messages, and that comes back to that Diana Cooper book as well. And she tells you to do like a body map of everything that happens to you. And I had my tonsils removed as a child at 8 years of age.
Mm,
So then my voice became thwarted
mm,
because even at that age, I couldn't voice what I could feel. I could feel the energy wasn't right, but I couldn't voice what it was because I didn't know what it was.
mm,
I had all this unknown in me. And so I've always been like, I was, always asked to read out loud in my English class because I literally couldn't read out loud because I would read a word at a time because I was so self-conscious, so
mm.
self-conscious. But then I could do public speaking, and then I could, teach people how to speak in public with the modelling department that I did. Just like a paradox, really, isn't it? And then I got, my body is always giving me messages. So I found a book called The Secret Language of the Body by
Secret
Inna
language.
Segal. And it's like, I very rarely see a doctor because, like, there's nothing against doctors because I've been saved by doctors. But now I've got the capacity to listen to my body before anything has to get to a crisis point. So I get warnings and I'll look up what that warning's about, and it'll give me a couple of divine, attaching to the divine and intelligence and colours and whatever, and I can heal that part of myself.
Mm,
Plus, I also have like regular intuitive massages, and I visit an osteopath because of the car accident where my body's been through so much trauma. So I do a lot of like self-care stuff, but I also really trust and listen to my body now. Because
yeah.
when I went to Italy with my daughter, we went there on this magical trip, and it was just after my father had passed away and he'd been to Italy. We hired a car, myself, my daughter, and my grandson, and we drove around Italy. Crazy. Like, who thought you could do it? In the chaos over there. But it was amazing. But we'd get lost, and then Lindsay, she would be on the iPad checking to see where we needed to get back on the autostrada or whatever. And I'd say, we're right. And she'd say, how do you know? And I said, there's a number plate in front that says EK. And that was my dad's nickname. And so I said, we must be right. Dad's letting us know. And the first place we went to stay we picked all these Airbnbs just off the internet, and everyone said, that's risky. You shouldn't be doing this. 2 women on your own, like all this stuff. No problem at all. First one we went to in Rome, we were so tired from all the travelling. Walked in the door, and I've got a photo that my grandmother, who I'm the spitting image of and that I love to bits, I've got a photo a painting that she's had on her wall that Dad gave to me. We walked in the door, and there's that same painting in like a little alcove thing as we came in the door. The same painting of Castle St. Angelo in Rome. And I just thought, we're in the right place. Like, everything worked. It was like we were connected to Source all the time we were there. It was magical. But when I went to the Vatican, and we got there, the closer we got, I felt like I was cored out and cold in my solar plexus. My grandson wouldn't stop crying, and he's not that child. And my daughter said, I feel really uncomfortable, because she's a very intuitive soul as well. And so we had to leave. We had to go and find grass. We had to find bush. We had to get away. And since then, I've heard that the records of the women that were burnt at the stake, the information that they got is buried deep below the Vatican. We couldn't even get in there. Like, I couldn't stay. I was like literally feeling like I've just got to get out of here.
You're saying that the information that was obtained from the women,
from the healing witches, yeah,
is stored beneath the Vatican.
Yeah.
I'm getting a charge.
I know.
No. But you guys obviously were doing some type of grid. Something was going on.
Yeah.
3
absolutely.
intuitives, because your grandson was an intuitive too.
Yeah.
He let you know in his own
He's
way.
just love personified, that little boy. He really is. Just vibrates love.
Wow. And like that whole synchronistic thing that was a part of that experience, people are talking about more and more about the fluidity, the signs, getting the message,
Yep.
the synchronicities. Are you finding that that's increasing in your life and it's more sustainable?
Yes. Like, I'll have somebody will cancel, and once upon a time, because I was so busy and I had people on the waiting list, I would think, oh, I need to get someone else in because they're on the waiting list. And of course, when you contact someone on a waiting list, their chances are they can't come anyway because they're busy with what they've got scheduled for their day, even though they want to be on the waiting list.
Mm-hmm.
So I used to get myself in a real stress. Now I just think, I'm not aligned
Right.
with that person today. That's all.
Yeah. Or it just wasn't meant to happen.
It wasn't meant to happen. And it's just created this most magical flow with my work. Like, every morning I do writing. I get up, this is ridiculous, I get up 3 or 4 hours earlier before I go to work. And I always do a bath meditation. I'm a real water person when I'm meditating, so I have at least a 20-minute bath, and I write, and I listen to a few, like there's I'm learning a lot about astronomy and astrology at the moment that I'm just a little bit excited about because of where the planets are at the moment, and the intensity of all this energy of our ascension at this stage. I'm really fascinated by all that. So I listen to a bit of that, and then I always write out what I'm grateful for. So I write and write and write, and sometimes I write and I get something that I go, wow, that's amazing. And then by the end of when I feel like I'm drained of what I needed to write, I set an intention for the day, because I know the power of my word. So every day it is, today I am and this morning I put grace. And that is how my world goes, because I set that intention. And it's so powerful. And the other thing that's happened just recently as well, that like there's been this other transformation in there where I've got rid of all the clothes that I wanted to wear before. You know, like I felt like I'm now too much to have too much. So not in an ego way. It's like I said this to a client, we were having this conversation about how I'm minimizing down my wardrobe. I don't want to wear anything fluffy, frilly, too much, anything. Like I've just wanted to get rid of it, so it was like gone. And I heard myself say, and I didn't say it, but I said, I feel like now that I'm too much to have too much fro in anything. So I'm enough in who I am. So I'm enough light. I'm enough of my being. So it doesn't matter what I wear as long as I feel right and comfortable and like fitting. So it's got to just feel right. That's all I care about now. It's not that I don't want to look nice, but I'm not trying to look nice. And most of the time, I look better because I'm not trying to. Do you know what I mean? It's so crazy. The trying's out of it. And sometimes I wear the same thing over and over and over and over and over because I feel good in it. But I don't care. Whereas once upon a time I'd think, oh, that person that came last month, I was wearing that. I shouldn't wear that. You know, like all these things that would go through my head just to get dressed or whatever. Whereas now I literally don't care.
Yeah.
But I don't have to care because it just works.
Right. And you said, you made a couple of references to like the last few weeks. I'm just curious, has it been, how's it been? I shouldn't even ask people. How was your last few weeks?
Well, it knocked me. Like I've had, how I've managed to work, but it's been really great because I've had like the odd cancellation, the odd bit of time. So that's given me time to sort of just get through the day. And then, the energy is just heavy. And the Eclipse, I didn't know how that was going to fix me. Here's me saying fix me, but I'm aware that I'm a fixed sign, so I'm a Leo, and I assume you're a Sagittarian from what you've shared. So you're a fixed sign too. So it's hitting the fixed signs apparently. And I was thinking, oh shit, what's this going to hit me with, you know? But it actually ended up with, I've had a little bit of the, I get neuralgia and like the vagus nerve thing. So I've had a touch of that. And it makes me feel like I need to be in slow motion and grounding myself. Like I sit on the ground a lot in between clients and, you know, do what I need to do just to sort of get that energy to sort of settle. But luckily today's a day off, so I don't have to be trying to be, you know, okay to be working. So I've still got a little bit today, but I thought it's probably going to be good having this conversation because it'll probably clear some of it. Sometimes that's what happens.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do...
I got affected by it for sure.
What's that?
I certainly got affected by the eclipse.
That whole eclipse corridor.
Totally.
The first part of October and all of September, all of August. The last part of August was crazy.
And I think that was where, because my feeling of a disappointment, I think that I've discovered that is the core of, even when I set an intention, that has been a strong one in the background, like trying to prevent disappointment.
Like a program?
Yes. And so in this last few months, and it literally probably a month ago, we had like this Christmas planned with the family all getting together, and that's had to be cancelled. And I was just so angry and disappointed and frustrated, and like nothing ever works like the victim. Like the victim came up big time. And then I had to sit with that victim, and I had to sort of process that in my writing, and I didn't want to talk too much to my family about it because I knew it'd be the wounded part of me that'd be speaking. So I had to wait till I felt like I'd got enough of that out of me before I could have that conversation, at least with my family, which I did, and it was fine. But it's like I had to have this last disappointment for me to know that was still in the background somehow.
Right.
So now what I feel is, Todd, it feels a little bit more clean slate.
Yes.
New beginning, new chapter.
Yes. Clean slate.
Page.
Clean slate.
Totally.
Yeah, I just right before I came on, I got a message from a friend and another friend, and that friend, something happened. I don't know what it is, but something happened. And I didn't have much time, and I just said, well, things are pretty, they're kind of like blistering right now. It's a good time to be alone, and I don't know why I wrote it. You know how I just put, it's like, it's crazy because we're being asked to just let it all go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's really
Absolutely.
what it's come down to. So it's like clean slate. Like, let's say I've known you for 10 years, and we have a history, all the ups, all the downs, just like friends do or whatever, family. It's like today I can look at you as the person you are, strictly as the person you are, which, like in this example, if anyone didn't know, this whole story and your perspective of it and your relaxation, of your field as you tell it with humor and with grace, right? This is who you are, and by the same token, this is who I'm today. This
Absolutely.
This is me. So
Absolutely.
I think what's happening is this whole self-appreciation. You said it better a minute ago, but is translating into two or more sharing.
Yeah.
From the new Todd and the new Ren, and you know what I mean?
Totally. And I feel that. I feel like we're meeting each other as we are.
Yeah. And it's cool.
In that moment.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's a little bit weird to the human parts of us that are dying. Like you said,
Totally.
like the way you handled that, which is actually a really good example for all of us. I mean, you have a situation. Obviously, those are delivered to us. The most impactful ones have been anyway, that involve people and, different dynamics of drama and chaos and whatever. But to take the time to sit with it, first and foremost, and then to still honor yourself and speak to it, but from, post assimilation or post.
Not with a charge, as you say. You say like
that's.
0
I mean,
points.
that's, and I think for me, like I've seen a lot of it over the last few weeks with a lot of people, and even in the in the social media, just with the way people post, and it feels like we're getting that it's not personal. It feels like that the sting doesn't last as long, or it's just not sticking to us, and I think that's kind of weird to the human that's coming online. It's kind of weird.
Well, that
like
comes back to my story of the ugly duckling, because nothing sticks to a duck, does it?
That's right. It's just like water off a duck's back. That's the energetic pattern of it. Yeah. And
the interesting thing about Grace was, I was going to say as well, when I did the Landmark Forum, at the end of it, the Landmark Forum leader, who was Kathy Elliott, and she was just incredible. Like, she had the most amazing presence. And she went round, you know, the 200 odd people in the room, and we had to state who we were now after what we'd gone through. So I can't even remember what I'd written down. I'd come up with what I thought I was. She looked at me, and I said to her what I was. You had to state it out loud. She said, Wendy, because I was Wendy then, you are Grace.
Mm.
And I just thought, wow. And you know what that made me think? That Love, Truth and Beauty, which is the book I wrote, Love, Truth and Beauty all together is grace.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Grace is
and I think what's
yeah.
coming up now is grace.
Maybe so, because right before I got on the show too, it's crazy how the synchronicities, you know, the weaving is. I witnessed that.
Did you?
Yeah, on something that was written, and I took it in, you know, like I don't know, I had read it, and yeah, and I just said that's what that is, grace. I saw that, you know, like because every expression we put out there, we're really stating our own energetic balance or lack thereof or whatever, right? So we have all these issues that are happening in this divergent and convergent, crazy, you know, all these streams running around, timelines dying, all this stuff, and to see that type of expression, you know, it's to see somebody deliver an expression with all those myriad things that are in our field with grace is quite impressive, I think.
Yeah.
It really is. It really is.
And that's what's coming through with all of your shows. It's like, it's so, like, for me to put my hand up like this, it feels like, as I said, you know, something's building. But I've also seen myself in a different way just from the conversations that you've been having, because, you know, that's what made me feel like, wow, I'm making such an impact on these people by being in their presence, helping them see themselves in a whole new way. And because they've been through a form of sort of beauty trauma, because they haven't fitted the fashion narrative. You know, they've had to walk around with hair straightened by an iron rather than with what they've naturally got, because they didn't feel like they fitted, because they didn't know what to do with it. Whereas now they come in with fluffy, frizzy hair and walk out with a head full of goddess curls and they can't believe. Like, I had a lady that came to me that was 30-something. She drove for hours to get to me. She walked in, she said, my hair is so bad and so dry. I want it to look like that, but look at it. I need a conditioning treatment. And I said, no, I just need to show you how to hydrate your hair. So I did it. She burst into tears and she said, this is the hair I've always wanted. And she said, and I've been walking around with it on my head but didn't know that it was there. Like, I'm just unlocking these people that are just looking honestly so beautiful, Todd, I could cry. And not saying that I'm making them that. They are already, but I always post their befores and afters, because their before looks like heavy.
Oh, I see.
The time we have together and the after, when they actually see themselves revealed with curls, they look light and they literally bounce out. They've got so much energy.
The lightness of being.
As I said, I get this urge to give my book to people that are, and then they send me a long email saying, you've changed my life, I've always wanted to write and now I'm going to write, and thank you. Like, the book is a parallel journey that you go on, so you can sort of put your life into the book to sort of do some healing for yourself. That was the intention. Yeah.
Wow.
So here's me getting the book back out again, and it's actually doing something without me having to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Amazing. What a life we're on.
Wow, this was awesome. Last show of the day. Wow.
Yay!
Yeah,
Thank you.
I don't even know what to say. There's so many, well, they're not coincidences, synchronicities. But
Synchronicities.
yeah, and like what you were saying about, God, like the show, it's you said the conversation, but it's listening to those like you, because it's not instructive. It's experiential. You know,
Yes.
it's like somehow or another we haven't heard. We haven't heard that voice because we know that the only real teacher is the experience. Yet there's been a huge voice in this realm that was missing, and we were being told this experience was all these other things, which is a total distortion. And yet, like the mother carries the truth and the beauty and the love, right?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a triad. That's a hell of a holy trinity,
Isn't
right
it?
And then, yeah,
You know, I'd love to write another book, and I've already got the title for that, and it's the next 3 words, and it's richness, wonder, and joy.
richness.
So for me, I'm a nature girl. I'm an animal lover. I'm a mountain bike rider, so I love being in the bush, and I get a lot of my connection that way now, which sounds isolating, but it doesn't feel isolating. And so the richness that I get from those experiences, like I'll have things like, say, a bandicoot will just jump out in front of me on the track while I'm on the bike.
What is that?
A bandicoot, which is like it's in between a rat and a kangaroo. They're little.
What?
Yeah, just sort of shot across the road.
What are you talking about? Wait a minute. You talking about something that looks like a kangaroo?
A little kangaroo
That
like
hops?
It hops. Yeah, a little bit. Well, sort of runs, but it's
Like a rabbit or like a kangaroo?
more like
A kangaroo?
I'll have to send a picture.
I would freak out because
Describe it.
obviously I'm not from Australia, but you know about the kangaroos, and I think there's another one
Yes.
that's a little
There's
bit.
wombats.
Wallow. Yeah, okay. But I didn't know there was another version. That's crazy.
Yeah,
That's
little
crazy.
bandicoots, and they've got a long nose, and they sort of bury through the dirt to pick things up. Anyway, I came home and I thought, oh, there's a message there for me, and I looked it up, and it was so relevant. It
What was it?
always is. And that's where I get all my wonder and, like, I don't know. So and the joy. Like,
Yeah.
joy to me is connection.
Yeah.
Whether it be with nature, with the trees, with the animals, with the environment, with people, like having these sort of conversations is just joy, isn't it? Like you can't, I mean, they can be hard and tough sometimes, but mostly they end in joy,
Yeah.
in my experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who would have thought that all these damn veils we've been waiting on to come down are the ones that the ones that we had unconsciously agreed to or whatever.
Created.
Yeah.
Yeah. And took on.
Well, and that's another thing, because there's a lot of talk over the years, with practitioners and the way it's referred to, like the way our path was referred to. We created this. It's almost like it's on my own damn fault, but actually, we created this. That's genius,
Isn't it?
it's just genius.
Yeah.
It really is. It really
Yeah.
is. It's
And we just keep getting more confirmation of that now at the moment, and it's sort of nearly like instant. Do you find that?
Yeah. I think you were talking
you think
about that.
something and then bang.
Yeah. Well, like the way you were talking about the trip to Italy, and then I asked the follow-up question, because a lot of there's a whatever you want to call it, a synchronicity or a sequential aspect, the way things are
And a
unfolding.
flow.
Yeah, yeah, and that's like the biggest confirmation we're getting, and even
Absolutely.
like the things that we have in our head, like, well, I really want to do this, and I really want to live here, and I really want to have enough money to do. Those things are like they're there, but they're not. They're unraveling. They're
Yeah.
not. And I think for me, this week feels like that. It
Oh,
feels like
absolutely.
because I'm seeing little bits of what on the surface might look like chaos, just kind of brewing,
Yeah.
like pressure, stress, linear, and yet my soul, me, because I am my soul. I am soul in my body. I
Yeah.
am. That's just my
Yeah.
own way I speak. I'm not saying that
Yeah.
but I say to myself, man, this is going to be an interesting week. I don't even think about,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
It's
that
weird.
brings me back to the duck again, because the duck can be on the surface looking quite sedate,
Right.
but they're working really hard underneath. So the chaos is underneath.
Yeah.
You're saying about the chaos is up there, which it is. We're trying not to take too much notice of the chaos.
Well, I mean, just like
And
the loops that the old loops, because I
yes.
mean the voice has
Oh,
gotten less frequent, right? I mean, the narrative, the talk, the chatter, and
yeah.
and I'm watching because everything is happening sequentially. It's happening in synchronicity, and you go, oh, just like you said about the animal darting in front of you, or and so you see three or four things, and you go, okay, this is interesting. It feels very much to me like an unraveling's taken place or is taking place, and like a
Totally.
lot of this stuff like you're talking about with the instant manifestation kind of aspect, as something, I guess you could say, as something's removed, something replaces it, and it's very obvious, you can see it.
Mm.
Hmm.
Yeah, I even turned my calendar over and it said bloom where you planted. Whoa.
That's pretty good.
And that was another thing that made me think I can speak up. I am at this time where I'm ready to bloom.
Yeah.
I have got a message. I have got, you know, I've got a mission. And I mean, it's probably bigger than what I can see at the moment, but it's also big at the moment.
Mm.
I'm loving the fact that it's making a difference.
I'm glad you came on. Which one
I'm
of them?
so glad I put my hand up. I
Which
like
one of the
I
which one of the
have felt a
guests?
bit sick,
Right. No kidding, right?
just
Uh,
thinking I wouldn't have enough to feel like 30 minutes.
oh, we did. We almost did an hour and a half. So
Oh
yeah,
wow.
it was
Yeah.
great meeting you, and I really appreciate you. Finding yeah to come on, and
Courage.
yeah, courage. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, you're full of. Yeah, it was awesome. I really enjoyed it. I really, really
I
did.
really enjoyed it too, and thank you so much for giving us women the opportunity to share with each other, especially the ones that are open to wanting to grow and learn and have a different perspective than what you've ever had. And like all those things are gold, aren't they?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I just show up. I do understand the whole reasoning behind it, but I'm not. I mean, I'm not the one that sees these
You're
things. And
part of it though.
yeah, I'm part of it, and I get
Yeah.
it, and it is so important. And I think I know that we'll have like 4,000 shows by the end of the year. This has been our slowest year. It's been like maybe 400 shows. Usually it's like 700, 800. Um, but it took me a long time to really like. I like doing other things,
Yeah.
and
You've got to get that balance right, don't
yeah,
you?
yeah. And but what I'm saying is it kind of grew on me as the reality set in of what Morgan spoke of, what Soulogy consciousness spoke of, and that this is the platform for the voices of the Mother Goddess, which is in all of us, right? But to actually watch it happening, and especially like the last month, something huge is going on here. Like,
Extraordinary.
yeah, it may seem like it's one little network with 15 or 16
Mm-mm.
women coming on, during a week in like a little ripple, but it's not. This is
it's
huge.
big.
It really is.
Yeah.
This because it's
Yeah.
a
And
physical
growing.
it's a physical representation of the energy that we're all aligning to.
Totally.
That's happening. So it's a different experience for me now, and I enjoy it much more.
It's
And I've always
extraordinary.
enjoyed it, but I'm much more now. It's just really
Yeah.
it's
You
cool.
look different, Todd.
I do.
You do. I think you're starting to look different, and I think that's
Mm,
what this is. Like you're saying how touched you've been by,
mm,
the connections in the last little
mm-hmm.
while,
Yeah.
and it's showing in you. Like there's something showing in you.
Well, what's interesting is the individuality of each one of them, and I do so many I can't like recall with the
Yeah.
3D memory. I could go back and look at them, but
Yeah, I know. I'm
it's
sorry that I brought up a few today that I couldn't remember
what.
the names, but anyway.
No, but the interesting thing is the individuality of each one of them is very, very obvious. That's the beauty of it because they're actually saying, like you said, this is my story, right? This is me. Uh, so that's, but at the same time, they all have the same frequency or the same vibrational, you know what I mean, band of frequencies.
Output. Yeah.
And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially when you start getting them from all over the world and
I know.
different cultural, and yet they're saying the same thing. They're projecting the same thing. So I'm
Absolutely.
I'm excited to be a part of it. And yeah, any
Yeah.
of y'all that want to come on. It
Absolutely. I'd
might
say
take a
do it.
while. It might take some people. It's been 6 months, and I'll get back to them. And some it's like 6 minutes. It just depends on how it falls. You know how it is right now.
Wow. That's how it should be at
Nothing
the moment.
structural. Yeah, nothing
No.
structural works. Right.
Yeah.
Well,
No, I agree.
yeah, it was a really great pleasure. You're a beautiful sister, and thank you so much. I'd love to collaborate with you again down the road. And
I would love that too. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
okay, you take care.
You
All right.
too.